The rain fell steadily outside, a soft, rhythmic patter that filled the quiet house, creating a cozy cocoon around Emma and Luke as they settled onto the couch with a shared bowl of popcorn. The evening was calm, almost ordinary, but there was an unspoken warmth in the air, a sense of something familiar, yet quietly new. Emma felt a small thrill of excitement mixed with comfort as she watched her brother adjust the blanket over his lap, his usual teasing smile softened by the gentle light from the TV. They hadn't spent an evening like this in years, not since life had pulled them in different directions, and now the pause in their routines made every small movement feel meaningful. The movie flickered on the screen, a light romantic comedy filled with laughter and awkward moments, and Emma found herself chuckling freely, sometimes glancing at Luke to see if he was enjoying it too. He was, though his expression held a subtle thoughtfulness she hadn't noticed before, a look that made her heart skip a little. They passed the popcorn back and forth, teasing each other over who took the bigger handful. Yet beneath the playful banter, there was a quiet tension, a sense that both of them were aware of something shifting, something that had always been unspoken but was now lingering between them. Outside, the rain continued, tapping against the windows and matching the slow rhythm of their breaths, making the world outside fade away. The soft hum of the TV mixed with the scent of warm cocoa from the kitchen, wrapping them in a sense of security and intimacy that Emma hadn't realized she had missed. She found herself noticing the little things, the way Luke's hair fell across his forehead when he laughed, the curve of his smile, the gentleness in his eyes, and it made her chest feel tight in a way that was unfamiliar, confusing, and strangely thrilling. She told herself it was just the calm of a rainy evening, just the comfort of being close to someone who had always been her anchor. But the truth was, she couldn't ignore the flicker of something more, something unspoken that hovered in the space between them. Each laugh, each glance, each shared silence seemed charged with unspoken meaning, and the ordinary act of watching a movie together suddenly felt like stepping into a moment that might never come again. Emma felt a mix of nostalgia and anticipation, memories of childhood nights spent building forts, laughing at silly cartoons, and sharing secrets rushing back, blending with a new, more complex awareness of Luke as someone she saw differently now. The rain continued its soft symphony outside, the shadows from the room stretching and bending with the flicker of the screen, creating a private world where only the two of them existed. For the first time in a long while, Emma allowed herself to just sit and feel, to let the gentle closeness of the evening wash over her without analyzing it, though a small, persistent curiosity tugged at her mind. She realized that the comfort she had always felt with Luke had quietly transformed into something heavier, more tender, more emotionally charged, and the awareness made her stomach flutter with both excitement and fear. They exchanged small smiles over the silly scenes on the screen, each of them caught between familiarity and an emerging intensity they weren't ready to name. Even the way Luke laughed, a soft, low sound that Emma had always known, now carried a subtle charm she hadn't noticed before, a warmth that lingered in the air long after the moment passed. The popcorn grew less important as their attention drifted to each other, each small gesture, each unguarded expression revealing something that words hadn't yet captured. Emma felt herself drawn into the space between them, feeling the tension of a connection that had always existed but was now evolving, a delicate, unspoken thread pulling them closer in a quiet, almost imperceptible way. The rain's steady rhythm became a backdrop for their emotions, a mirror of the gentle pulse of anticipation that neither of them could voice. As the movie continued, Emma became aware of her own heartbeat, syncing in a strange, comforting way with the soft sounds of the evening, and she caught herself stealing glances at Luke when she thought he wasn't looking, noticing the subtle changes in his expressions, the way his gaze sometimes lingered a moment too long. She realized that this night, this ordinary rainy evening spent watching a simple movie, was quietly becoming extraordinary, a turning point marked not by dramatic gestures, but by the slow, almost imperceptible awareness of a deeper connection, a bond that had always been there, but was now revealing itself in the smallest of ways. Emma tried to focus on the movie, on the laughs and the scenes that filled the screen, but her mind kept drifting back to Luke, to the way the dim light highlighted his features, the way his smile felt warmer, closer, more intimate than she had ever remembered. And in that quiet, unassuming moment, surrounded by the gentle sound of rain and the soft glow of the TV, Emma realized that tonight might change everything, though neither of them knew it yet, as the familiar comfort of sibling companionship subtly shifted into something richer, more complex, and undeniably emotional, leaving her heart both anxious and thrilled, waiting for the night's next unspoken question to arrive. The movie played on, the soft glow of the screen casting flickering shadows across the room, and Emma felt herself slipping deeper into the warmth of the moment, memories and laughter intertwining with the present in a way that made her heart feel both heavy and light at once. Luke leaned back on the couch, casually tossing a popcorn kernel into his mouth, but there was a subtle shift in him that Emma couldn't ignore, a quiet attentiveness in his gaze, a pause in his usual teasing banter, as if he were noticing her in a way he hadn't before. She remembered when they were children, building pillow forts in the living room, telling secrets under blankets while the rain beat against the windows, feeling safe and invincible in each other's company. And those memories suddenly seemed closer, sharper, and somehow tinged with a longing she hadn't recognized until now. Every laugh they shared over the silly scenes on the screen seemed to linger a little longer than usual, and Emma found herself stealing glances at Luke, noticing the way his eyes softened when he smiled, the subtle gestures that had always been comforting now carrying a strange, unspoken weight. She felt her chest tighten in a way that was unfamiliar, but not unwelcome, a flutter of emotion she couldn't quite name, as if the line between sibling comfort and something more delicate and complicated was starting to blur. Luke shifted on the couch, offering her the blanket that had slipped slightly from her lap, and she took it with a small, shy smile, feeling a warmth spread through her body that had nothing to do with the movie or the cozy room. It was the closeness, the shared space, the quiet intimacy that neither of them had acknowledged until tonight. Conversation drifted easily at first, playful and light, teasing each other about who was picking the worst movie scenes, but soon it slowed into comfortable pauses, silences filled with subtle glances, and the unspoken knowledge that something in their relationship was changing. Emma's mind raced as she tried to reconcile the childhood memories with the present, realizing that the bond she had always felt with Luke was transforming into something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken in ways that were both exciting and frightening. She thought about the times he had been there for her in life's small crises, the way he had protected her, encouraged her, made her laugh when she wanted to cry. And now, sitting next to him in the quiet of the evening, she felt a wave of gratitude and something more, a tender awareness of him as a person who could stir emotions she had never allowed herself to explore before. Outside, the rain continued to fall, a steady, comforting backdrop to the unfolding tension, and Emma felt the world shrink down to this single room, this single moment where everything else faded away, and it was just the two of them, hearts beating in quiet sync, sharing warmth, laughter, and the faintest hint of a question neither had dared voice. Luke laughed at a clumsy moment on screen, and the sound made her smile, but her eyes lingered on him longer than usual, noting the small details, the way his hair fell across his forehead, the curve of his jaw, the way his shoulders relaxed when he was comfortable, and she realized she was seeing him not just as her brother, but as someone entirely new, someone she could feel drawn to without understanding why. The room was quiet, except for the movie and the rain, and in that quiet, Emma could hear the subtle rhythms of Luke's breathing, the slight shift when he leaned forward to grab more popcorn, and it made her heart ache with a mixture of nostalgia and desire, a complicated tangle of emotions that made her both hesitant and curious. She remembered all the small moments they had shared growing up, the whispered jokes, the little competitions, the times they had stayed up late talking about dreams, fears, and hopes, and how those moments had built a foundation of trust and familiarity, a base from which something more tender could now rise if they allowed it. The warmth of the blanket between them, the soft light, the sound of the rain, and the comfort of shared laughter created a private world where vulnerability felt possible, and Emma sensed that Luke felt it too, though he didn't speak. She noticed the slight catch in his voice when he laughed, the lingering glance when he looked her way, and it made her pulse quicken in anticipation and uncertainty. There was a quiet tension, a slow-building awareness that neither had acknowledged yet, and Emma felt her emotions shift with every passing minute, caught between the safety of their shared past and the uncertainty of what the future might hold. She wanted to speak, to ask if he felt the same way, but the words caught in her throat, leaving only the soft rustle of the blanket and the distant sound of rain against the window. Luke shifted slightly, his hand brushing against hers as he reached for popcorn, and the accidental contact sent a jolt of warmth through her that left her breathless for a moment. It was small, insignificant in the grand scheme, yet it carried a weight neither of them could ignore, a quiet spark that hinted at unspoken feelings and uncharted territory. Emma's mind raced with what-ifs and maybes, her heart caught in a tender, thrilling tension she had never experienced before. She realized that tonight, this ordinary act of watching a movie together had become extraordinary, charged with an unspoken promise, a shift in their relationship that neither could yet define. The rain fell steadily, wrapping the house in a soft, protective rhythm, and Emma felt the moment stretch, each one deepening the connection between them, building anticipation for the conversation she knew would eventually come, a question that would change everything. The laughter, the silences, the glances, the shared warmth, all of it combined into a delicate web of emotion that made Emma's chest ache with longing, confusion, and excitement. She understood that something was happening between them, subtle yet undeniable, a shift from the familiar to the emotionally charged, from the comfort of siblings to the awareness of something more tender, fragile, and impossible to ignore. And as the movie reached its quiet, funny moments, Emma realized that they were both holding their breath, caught in the delicate balance of emotion, waiting for the other to speak, waiting for the first word that would turn the evening from nostalgic comfort into something unforgettable, something that would linger in their hearts long after the credits rolled. The movie credits rolled, leaving the room bathed in the soft glow of the screen, and Emma felt the quiet weight of the evening settle around them, thick with unspoken thoughts and lingering glances. Luke shifted slightly, his hand brushing against hers for a brief, accidental moment that made her chest tighten, and she realized the tension that had been quietly building between them all night was about to reach a tipping point. He cleared his throat, a small nervous sound that immediately made Emma turn toward him, sensing that something important was coming, something that might change everything she thought she knew about their relationship. "Emma," he began, his voice low and hesitant, "can I ask you something? A little strange?" Her heart skipped a beat, a sudden jolt of both fear and anticipation rushing through her as she nodded, barely finding the words to whisper, "Of course." His gaze held hers, steady but searching, as if he were measuring her reaction before continuing, and Emma felt a mix of dread and curiosity twist in her stomach. I don't want to make things weird, I swear," he said, the vulnerability in his tone making her chest ache. "But sometimes I feel like we're more than just siblings. Have you ever felt that?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy and electrifying, and Emma's mind spun with disbelief, confusion, and an unexpected thrill. She remembered all the years they had spent together, the laughter, the shared secrets, the comfort of knowing he was always there. And now those memories suddenly seemed layered with a new, complicated feeling that made her pulse race and her thoughts scatter. Luke's eyes searched hers, wide and unguarded, and she realized this wasn't a joke, not a fleeting thought. This was real, vulnerable, and raw, a confession that carried both risk and the weight of deep emotion. Emma's hand trembled slightly as she brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, and she struggled to steady her breathing, her heart pounding in her chest as 1,000 questions and possibilities collided in her mind. She thought of the subtle glances, the accidental touches, the small moments from the evening that suddenly made sense in a new, unsettling way, and a strange warmth spread through her, mingling with uncertainty and longing. Luke shifted closer, careful not to pressure her, and the proximity made her feel dizzy, as if the room itself had contracted, leaving only the two of them in a space filled with shared memories and new, unspoken desires. "I don't want to lose what we have," he continued softly, "but I also can't ignore this feeling, this connection that's grown stronger than just family. I needed to tell you because keeping it inside feels impossible." Emma swallowed hard, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the intensity of the moment, from the raw honesty he was showing, from the vulnerability that mirrored her own unacknowledged feelings. She thought about how long they had been close, how much trust and love had built between them, and how dangerous yet thrilling it was to imagine that their bond could deepen into something entirely new, something neither of them had expected but now seemed inevitable. Every instinct in her body urged caution, whispered reminders of rules and boundaries, yet another voice, softer and more insistent, urged her to explore the emotions she had tried to ignore, the curiosity and affection that had quietly grown over the years. Luke's hands rested on his knees, a small, tentative movement toward reassurance, and Emma noticed the way his eyes softened, the way his shoulders relaxed slightly as he waited for her response, creating a fragile bridge of trust that made the moment feel sacred and irreversible. She thought of all the nights they had shared laughter, secrets, and comfort, and now, layered on top of those memories, was the possibility of something more tender, more intimate, more complicated, a shift that could redefine everything without a single dramatic gesture. Her mind raced, imagining conversations, quiet moments, and the subtle touches that could follow, and she felt her heartbeat echoing in her ears, a rapid drum of anticipation and fear, desire and uncertainty. "Luke," she whispered finally, her voice trembling but steady, I don't know what to say. I've never expected this, never imagined it, but I think I understand what you mean." His shoulders relaxed, a small, relieved smile forming on his lips, and Emma felt a strange mixture of comfort and exhilaration at the sight, realizing that he too was holding back, waiting for her to step across an invisible line. The rain outside continued its gentle, rhythmic fall, wrapping the room in a cocoon of quiet intimacy, and every sound, the soft tapping of raindrops, the hum of the TV, the faint rustle of blankets, felt amplified, charged with emotion, a subtle soundtrack to the shifting reality of their relationship. Luke shifted again, a little closer this time, careful yet intentional, and Emma felt the electricity of proximity, the delicate tension of possibility, the thrilling uncertainty of acknowledging feelings that had been buried beneath years of familiarity. She thought about the consequences, the risk of confusion, the fear of misinterpreting each other, yet beneath all that was a magnetic pull, an undeniable attraction wrapped in years of trust, love, and shared history. Their fingers brushed again, tentative and unplanned, and Emma felt a jolt of warmth that made her breath hitch, a simple touch carrying more weight than words ever could. The world outside seemed to blur, the rain fading into insignificance compared to the quiet storm building between them, a mix of longing, fear, and hope that neither had fully explored until this moment. Luke's voice, low and soft, broke the silence once more. "I had to tell you. I couldn't keep it inside anymore." Emma's chest tightened with emotion, the reality of his confession settling over her, and she realized that the ordinary evening had transformed into something extraordinary, something fragile and tender, something that demanded honesty, courage, and the willingness to embrace uncertainty. She felt herself leaning slightly closer, drawn by a force she could neither name nor resist, and in that small movement, the boundaries of their relationship began to shift, slowly, carefully, like the first tentative steps into uncharted territory. Every heartbeat, every glance, every quiet pause in the conversation stretched the tension, deepening the emotional weight of the moment, leaving Emma acutely aware of the connection between them, the intimacy that had always existed and was now evolving into something undeniable. And as the rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows, the soft glow of the TV flickering across their faces, Emma understood that nothing would ever be the same again. The question had been asked, the truth revealed, and the path ahead was filled with possibility, uncertainty, and the raw, tender excitement of discovering feelings neither had admitted before, a quiet turning point in their story that would linger long after the night ended. The room was quiet, except for the steady patter of rain against the windows, the soft glow of the TV casting flickering light across Emma and Luke as they sat frozen in the weight of what had just been said. The question hung in the air between them, heavy and alive, and neither knew how to break the silence without shattering the fragile moment. Emma felt her heart racing, a mixture of fear, longing, and excitement twisting together in her chest, as if every memory, every shared laugh from their past had led to this exact second. Luke's eyes were fixed on her, vulnerable and open, and she noticed the slight trembling in his hands, the way he shifted on the couch to appear casual, though his tension betrayed him. She wanted to speak, to reassure him, to acknowledge the depth of what he had just confessed, but words seemed impossible, fragile against the intensity of the moment. Instead, she let her hand move almost unconsciously, brushing against his, and the contact sent a jolt of warmth through both of them, a silent acknowledgement that neither could ignore the feelings now rising to the surface. Time seemed to slow, the ordinary noises of the night, the rain, the distant hum of traffic, the soft rustle of blankets, fading into background static, leaving only the charged atmosphere of shared hearts and unspoken emotions. Emma thought of all the years they had been close, the trust, the safety, the laughter, and how those foundations now allowed something new, something tender, to emerge without destroying the bond they had built. Luke's hand lingered near hers, hesitant but not withdrawing, and in that quiet hesitation, Emma felt the depth of his emotions, the careful balance of fear and desire that mirrored her own. She remembered their childhood, the pillow forts, the late-night talks, the little secrets shared under the dim glow of lamps, and realized those moments had quietly prepared them for this, had slowly taught them the meaning of closeness, trust, and affection that now carried a more complicated yet beautiful weight. She could feel her pulse in her throat, the flutter in her stomach, the warmth spreading from her chest, and she knew that the connection they had always shared was evolving into something she had never dared imagine, yet now seemed inevitable. Luke shifted slightly, finally meeting her gaze fully, and in his eyes, she saw hope, uncertainty, and the same longing she felt reflected back at her. The silence stretched, heavy and electric, and Emma realized that this was a turning point, a delicate moment that required no words, only presence, acknowledgement, and the willingness to embrace the vulnerability that came with revealing true feelings. Slowly, she let her hand rest closer to his, fingertips brushing lightly, a simple gesture that carried centuries of trust, affection, and new desire condensed into a single touch. The warmth of the room, the smell of popcorn and cocoa, the gentle rhythm of rain, all combined to make the moment feel sacred, intimate, and safe, despite the uncertainty of what might come next. Emma's mind raced with questions, fears, and possibilities, but the one thing she knew with certainty was that this was real, that Luke's feelings mirrored her own in ways she had never admitted to herself, and that tonight had changed the nature of their relationship forever. Luke exhaled softly, a sound that seemed to release some of the tension, and Emma felt her own breath catch, the quiet intimacy of shared emotion filling the space between them more profoundly than words ever could. She felt the magnetic pull toward him, a mix of comfort and thrill, the kind that made every heartbeat echo louder than normal, each glance and subtle movement loaded with meaning. The TV flickered to black as the movie ended, but neither moved to get up, neither wanted to break the spell, and the quiet house became their private world, a place where emotions could exist freely, where the past, present, and future intertwined in a delicate dance of trust, longing, and anticipation. Emma remembered small details she had always loved about Luke, the way his eyes softened when he smiled, the careful way he moved when he was thoughtful, the tiny quirks that had always made her heart swell. And now those details carried a new intensity, a tenderness she could no longer ignore. Luke shifted a little closer, careful to respect boundaries yet closing the gap that had existed for years, and Emma felt the electricity of proximity, the warmth of shared vulnerability, the thrill of mutual acknowledgement, and she realized that every step they took now would shape the delicate new layer of their relationship. The rain outside grew louder for a moment, then softened again, a gentle, protective rhythm that matched the fragile, tentative connection between them. And Emma felt a deep, steady pull to lean into the moment, to explore the feelings that had long been hidden beneath familiarity, comfort, and unspoken affection. Their fingers brushed again, more deliberately this time, a silent promise of understanding and care, and Emma felt the tension in her chest ease slightly, replaced by a warmth that made her pulse steady, even as excitement bubbled beneath the surface. She realized that love, desire, and emotional closeness could exist without words, that trust and history could provide the courage to embrace feelings that were complex yet beautiful, and that the connection between them had quietly grown into something profound, tender, and unforgettable. Luke's eyes met hers again, steady and sincere, and Emma saw not just longing, but a deep respect and care, the kind of emotion that made her heart ache with happiness and anticipation. Slowly, ever so carefully, she moved her hand to rest against his, a small but deliberate gesture of acknowledgement, and Luke's response was immediate, a slight squeeze, a mirrored understanding, a delicate confirmation that neither had been alone in feeling the intensity of the moment. The rain continued outside, tapping softly against the windows, the night stretching endlessly around them. And in that quiet cocoon, Emma understood the truth. The ordinary evening, the shared movie, the simple comforts of sibling closeness had transformed into a tender, emotionally charged awakening that neither could forget. Their eyes locked, their breaths synchronized, and in that silence, in the subtle warmth of shared hands and unspoken acknowledgement, Emma and Luke realized that the story of their relationship had shifted, delicately and irrevocably, into a new chapter filled with vulnerability, longing, and the quiet thrill of exploring a connection deeper than they had ever dared imagine, a moment that would linger long after the rain had stopped and the night had passed, leaving only the tender echo of hearts discovering a love they had never expected but could no longer deny.